There's a moment when you realize it. A quiet, sinking moment when you understand that something has shifted. People don't listen the way they used to. They interrupt you. They dismiss your words. They take your kindness for weakness, your patience for permission. And somewhere deep inside, you feel it, disrespect. But here's the thing most people never understand. Disrespect doesn't happen because you're weak. It doesn't happen because you're not smart enough, not successful enough, or not confident enough. Disrespect happens because you've been doing one thing over and over again without realizing it. You've been explaining yourself to people who never asked for an explanation. You've been seeking approval from people who never valued your presence. You've been defending your worth to people who already decided you don't have any. And that's the trap. Every time you explain yourself to someone who disrespects you, you hand them a little more of your power. Every time you try to prove your worth, you reinforce the idea that your worth is something that needs proving. Every time you react emotionally to someone's coldness, cruelty, or dismissal, you show them exactly where to press next time they want to control you. It's exhausting. It's draining. And worst of all, it's invisible. You don't wake up one day and realize you've lost respect. It happens slowly. One compromise at a time. One explanation too many. One reaction that gives someone exactly what they wanted. Your attention, your energy, your emotional breakdown. But there's a way out. And it starts the moment you decide to stop. Stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop reacting. Stop giving your inner world to people who don't deserve a front row seat to your emotions. Because the truth is, respect is never demanded. Respect is reflected. And if you want the world to respect you, you have to start by respecting yourself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't. Let me tell you what that looks like. Imagine you're sitting across from someone who just said something dismissive. Maybe it was subtle, a sarcastic remark, a condescending tone, a joke at your expense disguised as humor. In the past, you might have felt that familiar knot in your chest. You might have jumped to explain yourself, to correct their misunderstanding, to defend your intentions. You might have smiled it off while anger simmered beneath the surface. But this time, you don't. This time, you pause. You feel the disrespect, yes. But instead of reacting, you let it sit in the air between you. You don't explain. You don't defend. You don't fill the silence with nervous laughter or over-explanation. You simply look at them, calm and unbothered, and then you let the moment pass. And something strange happens. They notice. Because your silence isn't empty, it's full. Full of self-respect. Full of boundaries. Full of quiet power that doesn't need to announce itself. And in that silence, they realize something uncomfortable. You're not the same person they thought they could dismiss. You're not playing the game anymore. You're not chasing their validation. You're not shrinking to make them feel bigger. You're walking away. Not with anger. Not with drama. Not with long speeches about how they hurt you or how they should have treated you better. You're walking away with dignity. With calm. With a quiet understanding that your peace matters more than their opinion. And that's the secret most people never learn. Walking away is not defeat. Walking away is self-respect in motion. Because here's what happens when you stop explaining yourself. You stop giving people the power to define you. You stop letting their confusion, their projection, their disrespect become your responsibility. You stop exhausting yourself trying to be understood by people who never had any intention of understanding you in the first place. And when you stop defending your worth, something even more powerful happens. You start living like someone who already knows their worth. You stop seeking validation. You stop performing for approval. You stop bending and twisting yourself into shapes that make others comfortable while you suffocate inside. You stand still, grounded, solid, unbothered. And the people around you, they feel it. They feel the shift in your energy. They notice that you're no longer chasing them for respect. They realize that your time, your attention, your emotional energy, all of it, has become something you protect, not something you give away freely. And suddenly, the disrespect stops. Not because you demanded it. Not because you fought for it. But because you stopped tolerating it. You stopped giving disrespectful people access to your inner world. You stopped letting them live rent-free in your mind. You stopped letting their words, their judgments, their coldness dictate how you feel about yourself. You became someone who doesn't need to be respected by everyone, because you respect yourself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't. And that's the foundation. That's where it all begins. Because respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you command, not with your words, but with your presence. With your boundaries. With your refusal to shrink, to explain, to perform, to prove. Respect is built in the quiet moments when you choose yourself. When you choose peace over the need to be right. When you choose distance over the need to be understood. When you choose silence over the need to defend. And once you understand that, everything changes. Let's talk about what respect actually is, because most people get it wrong. Respect isn't loud. It isn't forced. It isn't something you earn by being the smartest person in the room, the most successful, or the most likable. Respect is quiet. It's the way people naturally adjust their behavior around you because they sense something solid, something unmovable, something real. And that something is self-respect. Self-respect is the invisible boundary you carry with you. It's the line you draw in the sand that tells the world, this is how far you can go. This is what I will tolerate. And this is where I walk away. But here's the problem. Most people don't have that line. Or if they do, they keep moving it. They let people cross it once, then twice, then 100 times, always telling themselves, it's not that bad. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. And before they know it, the line is gone. The boundary has dissolved. And disrespect has become the norm. So how do you rebuild it? You start by understanding one simple truth. Boundaries aren't about controlling other people. Boundaries are about protecting yourself. You don't need to announce your boundaries. You don't need to give speeches about how people should treat you. You don't need to explain why certain behaviors are unacceptable. You simply enforce your boundaries through your actions. Someone disrespects you. You don't argue. You don't defend. You distance yourself. Someone takes your kindness for weakness. You don't try to prove them wrong. You simply stop being kind to them. Someone dismisses your feelings. You don't beg them to care. You stop sharing your feelings with them. It's that simple. And it's that hard. Because enforcing boundaries means being willing to lose people. It means being willing to be misunderstood. It means being willing to stand alone rather than shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. But here's what happens when you do it anyway. You become magnetic. Not in a loud, attention-seeking way. In a quiet, grounded way. People start noticing that you don't chase. You don't beg. You don't over-explain. You don't react emotionally to every slight, every joke, every dismissive comment. You simply exist in your own power. And that power is undeniable. Because the truth is, people don't respect what they can easily control. They respect what they can't. And the moment you stop being controllable, the moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop seeking validation, you become someone they can't ignore. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a conversation with someone who constantly interrupts you. In the past, you might have kept talking, raising your voice a little, trying to finish your point. Or maybe you just gave up, letting them dominate the conversation while you sat quietly, frustrated and unheard. But now, you do something different. The next time they interrupt you, you stop talking. Completely. You don't fight for your voice. You don't raise your volume. You just stop. And you let the silence sit there. They might keep talking. They might not even notice at first. But eventually, they'll feel it. That silence. That absence of your energy. And they'll realize something. You're not competing for space anymore. You're not begging to be heard. You're simply choosing not to waste your words on someone who isn't listening. And that choice, that quiet, powerful choice, is what commands respect. Because respect is never about forcing people to listen. It's about refusing to speak to people who won't. It's about valuing your own voice enough to save it for people who actually care what you have to say. And once you start doing that, once you start protecting your energy, your words, your emotional space, you'll notice something incredible. The people who truly matter will step up. They'll listen more carefully. They'll treat you with more consideration. They'll respect your boundaries because they don't want to lose access to you. And the people who don't, They'll fade away. Quietly. Naturally. Without drama. Because you're not fighting them. You're not cutting them off with angry speeches or emotional confrontations. You're simply not available to them anymore. You've become someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect, not because you demand perfection, but because you refuse to settle for less than what you deserve. And what you deserve is simple: to be treated with the same respect you give yourself. That means no more apologizing for taking up space. No more shrinking to make others comfortable. No more explaining yourself to people who've already decided not to understand you. It means showing up fully, unapologetically, and calmly, knowing that your worth isn't up for debate. And here's the beautiful part: when you live like that, you stop attracting disrespect. You stop attracting people who drain you, who dismiss you, who take advantage of your kindness. You start attracting people who match your energy. People who respect boundaries because they have boundaries. People who value your presence because they understand what it means to protect their own. You create a life where respect isn't something you have to fight for. It's something that naturally surrounds you, because you've built it from the inside out. And it all starts with one decision: to stop explaining yourself to people who were never confused. To stop defending yourself to people who were never listening. To stop reacting to people who were never worth your emotional energy. It starts the moment you choose yourself. Now let's talk about the hardest part: staying consistent. Because here's what happens after you start setting boundaries, after you start walking away, after you start choosing silence over reaction. People test you. They test you because they're used to the old version of you. The version that explained. The version that chased. The version that bent over backward to keep the peace. And when you stop being that person, it confuses them. It unsettles them. And instinctively, they'll try to pull you back. They'll push your buttons. They'll say things designed to get a reaction. They'll accuse you of being cold, distant, or different. They'll make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. And this is where most people break. They feel the discomfort of being misunderstood. They feel the guilt of disappointing someone. They feel the fear of being alone. And so they go back. They apologize. They explain. They shrink themselves once again to make others comfortable. And just like that, the boundary is gone. But if you want to be respected, you have to stay firm. You have to be willing to let people be uncomfortable with your growth. You have to be willing to let them misunderstand you, judge you, even walk away from you. Because the truth is, not everyone is meant to stay in your life. Some people are only meant to teach you what you will no longer tolerate. And once you learn that lesson, you have to honor it. Even when it's hard. Even when it's lonely. Even when every part of you wants to go back to being the people pleaser, the peacemaker, the one who sacrifices their own peace to keep everyone else happy. You have to stay consistent. Because consistency is what builds respect. Not grand gestures. Not perfect words. Not dramatic confrontations. Just quiet, steady consistency. You said you wouldn't tolerate disrespect? Don't tolerate it. You said you wouldn't over-explain yourself? Don't explain. You said you wouldn't react emotionally to people who don't care? Don't react. Every time you honor your own boundaries, you reinforce them. Every time you walk away with dignity, you strengthen your self-respect. Every time you choose peace over the need to be right, you become a little more unshakable. And people notice. They notice that you're not the same person they used to control. They notice that your silence isn't weakness, it's power. They notice that your calm isn't indifference, it's mastery. And slowly, their behavior changes. Not because you demanded it. Not because you argued or explained or fought. But because you became someone who doesn't need to. You became someone who commands respect simply by refusing to accept anything less. Now, let's talk about emotional intelligence, because that's the key to all of this. Emotional intelligence isn't about being nice. It isn't about avoiding conflict or making everyone like you. Emotional intelligence is about understanding your own emotions so deeply that you're no longer controlled by them. It's about feeling disrespected and choosing not to react. It's about feeling angry and choosing to stay calm. It's about feeling hurt and choosing to walk away with grace. Most people let their emotions run the show. Someone disrespects them, and they explode. Someone dismisses them, and they spiral. Someone triggers them, and they give away all their power in a single reaction. But emotionally intelligent people, they feel everything, and they still choose how to respond. They don't suppress their emotions. They don't pretend they're unbothered. They simply refuse to let their emotions dictate their actions. And that's the difference between someone who is constantly disrespected and someone who isn't. Disrespected people react. Respected people respond. Disrespected people explain. Respected people walk away. Disrespected people seek validation. Respected people validate themselves. And that shift, from reaction to response, from seeking to knowing, is what changes everything. Because when you stop needing external validation, you become untouchable. People can say whatever they want about you. They can dismiss you, mock you, misunderstand you. And none of it will shake you, because your sense of worth doesn't come from them. It comes from you. And when you carry that kind of inner stability, people feel it. They can't manipulate you. They can't guilt you. They can't control you. All they can do is respect you. Or leave. And either way, you win. Because you're no longer playing the game of trying to be respected by everyone. You're living a life where respect is a natural byproduct of how you respect yourself. You're no longer shrinking to fit. You're no longer explaining to be understood. You're no longer defending to be valued. You're simply being. Fully. Unapologetically. Calmly. And that presence, that grounded, self-assured presence, is what makes people stop and take notice. It's what makes them think twice before disrespecting you. It's what makes them feel uncomfortable when they cross your boundaries. It's what makes them realize that you're not someone they can take for granted. Because you've become someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect, not out of arrogance, but out of deep, unwavering self-respect. And once you reach that place, everything changes. The people who drained you will fade away. The people who dismissed you will either step up or step back. And the people who truly value you will rise to meet the standard you've set. Because respect is a mirror. It reflects what you believe about yourself. And when you believe, deeply and completely, that you deserve respect, when you live that belief through your actions, your boundaries, your silence, the world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. Let's go deeper into the psychology of silence, because this is where most people struggle. We live in a world that glorifies words. We're taught to speak up, to defend ourselves, to make our voices heard. And while there's power in speaking, there's even greater power in knowing when not to. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. When someone disrespects you and you respond with silence, you do something they don't expect. You refuse to engage. You refuse to give them the emotional reaction they're looking for. You refuse to play their game. And that refusal is what makes them uncomfortable. Because people who disrespect you are often looking for a reaction. They want to see you flustered, defensive, angry, or hurt. They want proof that they got to you. They want to know they have power over your emotions. But when you stay silent, when you remain calm and unbothered, you take that power away. You become unpredictable. You become someone they can't read, can't control, can't manipulate. And that uncertainty forces them to reflect on their own behavior. Think about it. When you over-explain yourself, you give people a roadmap to your insecurities. You show them exactly what bothers you, exactly where you're vulnerable, exactly how to push your buttons next time. But when you stay silent, you give them nothing. No roadmap. No ammunition. No access to your inner world. And without that access, they lose their power. Now, this doesn't mean you become cold or shut down emotionally. It means you become selective. You save your words for people who deserve them. You save your energy for situations that actually matter. You stop wasting your breath on people who aren't listening. You stop defending yourself to people who've already made up their minds. You stop explaining your worth to people who can't see it. And in doing so, you protect your peace. Because here's the truth, your peace is your power. And the moment you start protecting it like it's the most valuable thing you own, your entire life transforms. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop tolerating behavior that drains you. You stop giving your time and attention to people who don't appreciate it. You become ruthlessly protective of your energy. And that protection is what commands respect. Let me tell you what this looks like in real life. Imagine someone makes a disrespectful comment toward you in a group setting. In the past, you might have laughed it off awkwardly, or worse, you might have tried to defend yourself, explaining why their comment was wrong or hurtful. But now, you do something different. You pause. You look at them calmly. And then you say nothing. You don't laugh. You don't defend. You don't engage. You just let the disrespect hang in the air, uncomfortable and obvious. And here's what happens. Everyone else in the room feels it too. They feel the weight of that comment. They feel the awkwardness of your silence. And suddenly, the person who disrespected you is the one who looks bad, not you. Because your silence exposes their disrespect. It doesn't hide it. It doesn't smooth it over. It lets it sit there, raw and undeniable, for everyone to see. And that's the power of not reacting. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to prove you're worthy of respect. Your calm, unbothered presence does it for you. Now, let's talk about the internal work, because none of this works if you don't believe it yourself. You can set all the boundaries you want. You can walk away from disrespect. You can stay silent in the face of provocation. But if deep down, you still believe you need other people's approval, if you still believe your worth is something that has to be earned, then your boundaries will crumble the moment someone challenges them. True self-respect starts from within. It starts with the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve. Do you believe you deserve to be treated with respect? Or do you believe you have to earn it by being perfect, by pleasing everyone, by never making mistakes? Do you believe your worth is inherent? Or do you believe it's conditional, dependent on how others see you? These are the questions that determine everything. Because if you believe your worth is conditional, you'll spend your life trying to prove it. You'll shrink yourself to fit into other people's expectations. You'll tolerate disrespect because you think you haven't done enough to deserve respect yet. But if you believe your worth is inherent, if you believe you deserve respect simply because you're a human being with dignity and boundaries, then everything changes. You stop performing. You stop proving. You stop shrinking. You stand in your truth, calm and unshaken, knowing that your worth doesn't need to be validated by anyone else. And when you live from that place, respect isn't something you chase. It's something that naturally flows toward you. Because people can sense authenticity. They can sense when someone is grounded in their own worth. They can sense when someone isn't seeking approval, isn't desperate for validation, isn't willing to compromise their peace for the sake of being liked. And that energy, that grounded, self-assured energy, is magnetic. It draws the right people in. It repels the wrong people. It creates a life where respect is the foundation of every relationship you have. So how do you build that internal foundation? You start by changing the way you talk to yourself. You stop criticizing yourself for not being enough. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop diminishing your own needs to make others comfortable. You start treating yourself with the same respect you want from others. You honor your own boundaries. You listen to your own feelings. You prioritize your own peace. And slowly, over time, that internal respect becomes external respect. Because the world mirrors what you believe about yourself. If you believe you're not worthy of respect, the world will reflect that back to you. But if you believe, deeply and completely, that you deserve respect, if you live that belief through your actions and your boundaries, the world has no choice but to respect you. Let's talk about what happens when you fully embody this mindset, when self-respect becomes not just something you practice, but something you are. When you reach this place, something shifts. You stop worrying about whether people respect you. You stop analyzing every interaction, wondering if you said the right thing, if you stood up for yourself enough, if you let something slide that you shouldn't have. You simply exist in your truth. And that truth is unshakable. You know your worth. You know your boundaries. You know what you will and won't tolerate. And you move through the world with that quiet certainty. People feel it the moment they meet you. They feel that you're not someone who can be easily swayed, manipulated, or disrespected. They feel that you're grounded in something solid, something real. And they adjust their behavior accordingly. Not because you demanded it. Not because you explained it. But because your energy speaks louder than words ever could. This is the place where respect becomes effortless. You're not fighting for it. You're not chasing it. You're not even thinking about it. It's just there, woven into every interaction, every relationship, every space you occupy. And the beautiful part? You've stopped needing it from everyone. You've realized that not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone is meant to appreciate you. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life. And that's okay. Because you're no longer collecting people. You're no longer trying to be liked by everyone. You're simply honoring yourself, and inviting only those who can honor you too. This is the freedom that comes with self-respect. You're no longer imprisoned by the need for approval. You're no longer held hostage by the fear of rejection. You're free to be yourself, fully and unapologetically, knowing that the right people will see your worth and the wrong people will simply fall away. And when someone does disrespect you, it doesn't shake you anymore. It doesn't send you spiraling into self-doubt. It doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't trigger that old need to explain, defend, or prove. It simply informs you. It tells you who someone is. It shows you where they stand. And you respond accordingly, not with anger, not with hurt, but with calm detachment. You distance yourself. You pull back your energy. You stop investing in someone who's shown you they don't deserve your investment. And you do it all without drama, without explanation, without burning bridges. You just quietly, gracefully, remove yourself from situations and relationships that don't honor you. And that quiet removal is more powerful than any confrontation ever could be. Because it shows that you're not interested in changing people. You're not interested in convincing them of your worth. You're simply interested in protecting your peace. And that peace, that unshakable, carefully guarded peace, is what makes you untouchable. Now, let's talk about the ripple effect of living this way. When you embody self-respect, you don't just change how others treat you. You change how you treat yourself. You stop settling. In relationships, in friendships, in your career, in every area of your life, you stop accepting less than you deserve. You start making choices that align with your values, not with other people's expectations. You start saying no without guilt. You start saying yes without fear. You become the author of your own life, rather than a supporting character in everyone else's. And that shift, from passive to active, from reactive to intentional, is what creates a life of true fulfillment. Because respect isn't just about how others treat you. It's about how you treat yourself. It's about the standards you set, the boundaries you enforce, the choices you make when no one is watching. It's about waking up every day and choosing to honor yourself, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, even when the world is telling you to shrink. And when you live like that, when you make self-respect your compass, everything else falls into place. The right people show up. The wrong people fade away. Opportunities align. Peace becomes your default state. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because you became someone who refuses to tolerate unnecessary hardship. You became someone who protects their energy, honors their boundaries, and walks away from anything that doesn't serve their highest good. And that is the ultimate form of self-respect. So here's what I want you to remember. Respect is not something you beg for. It's not something you earn through perfection. It's not something you convince people to give you. Respect is something you command through your presence, your boundaries, your consistency. It's something that flows naturally when you respect yourself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't. It's built in the quiet moments when you choose yourself. When you choose peace over the need to be right. When you choose silence over the need to defend. When you choose dignity over the need to be understood. And once you understand that, once you truly internalize it, you'll never tolerate disrespect again. Not because you're perfect. Not because you never make mistakes. But because you've decided that your peace, your boundaries, your self-respect are non-negotiable. You've decided that you deserve to be treated with the same care and consideration you give to others. And you've decided that anyone who can't meet that standard simply doesn't belong in your life. That's not arrogance. That's not coldness. That's self-love. That's emotional intelligence. That's strength. And it's the key to a life where respect isn't something you fight for. It's something that surrounds you, naturally and effortlessly, because you've built it from the inside out. So stop explaining yourself to people who were never confused. Stop defending yourself to people who were never listening. Stop reacting to people who were never worth your energy. Start protecting your peace. Start honoring your boundaries. Start walking away from disrespect with quiet dignity. And watch how quickly the world begins to reflect the respect you've finally given yourself. Because respect is a mirror. And once you look in that mirror and see someone worthy, unshaken, and whole, the world will see it too. Now, let's talk about the long-term transformation. What your life looks like when self-respect becomes your default, not something you have to consciously practice. When you've truly internalized these principles, you don't wake up thinking about boundaries. You don't analyze whether you're being respected or disrespected. You don't second-guess your decisions or wonder if you're doing enough. You just live. Freely. Authentically. Peacefully. Because self-respect has become woven into the fabric of who you are. It's in the way you carry yourself. It's in the way you speak, measured, intentional, never rushed or defensive. It's in the way you choose relationships, opportunities, and experiences that align with your values. You've become someone who naturally gravitates toward respect because you refuse to settle for anything less. And the people around you, they feel it too. They feel that you're not someone who tolerates half-hearted effort. You're not someone who accepts inconsistency. You're not someone who makes excuses for people who don't show up the way you do. You've set a standard, not through words, but through action. And people either rise to meet it, or they quietly exit your life. And you're okay with that. Because you've realized that quality always matters more than quantity. You'd rather have a few genuine, respectful relationships than a crowd of people who drain you, dismiss you, or take you for granted. You've learned that loneliness is not the absence of people. It's the presence of people who make you feel alone. And you've decided you'd rather be by yourself than surrounded by people who don't truly see you. That's freedom. That's power. That's the life that self-respect creates. But let's also talk about the moments when it's still hard, because self-respect doesn't mean you never struggle. There will still be days when you doubt yourself. Days when you wonder if you're being too distant, too guarded, too selective. Days when you miss the old version of yourself, the version that said yes to everything, that tried to make everyone happy, that bent over backward to keep the peace. And in those moments, you have to remind yourself why you changed. You changed because that version of you was exhausted. That version of you was constantly disrespected. That version of you gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. You changed because you realized that being kind doesn't mean being available to everyone. Being understanding doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Being compassionate doesn't mean sacrificing your own peace. You changed because you decided you deserved better. And that decision, that one powerful decision, is what set everything in motion. So when the doubt creeps in, when you feel the pull to go back to old patterns, remind yourself, going backward is not an option. You've come too far. You've grown too much. You've learned too deeply what it feels like to protect your peace, to honor your boundaries, to stand firm in your worth. And you're never going back to a version of yourself that didn't know her power. Now, let's talk about attraction, because self-respect changes the kind of energy you attract. When you were constantly seeking approval, constantly explaining yourself, constantly tolerating disrespect, you attracted people who fed off that energy. People who needed someone to control. People who thrived on your insecurity. But when you stepped into self-respect, everything shifted. You started attracting people who respected boundaries because they had boundaries. People who valued your time because they valued their own. People who communicated clearly, showed up consistently, and treated you with the same care and consideration you gave them. Because like attracts like. When you carry yourself with dignity, you attract dignified people. When you protect your peace, you attract peaceful people. When you refuse to tolerate disrespect, you attract people who would never disrespect you in the first place. And suddenly, your relationships transform. They're no longer draining. They're no longer one-sided. They're no longer filled with tension, confusion, or disappointment. They're balanced. They're reciprocal. They're rooted in mutual respect. And that's what you've been searching for all along, not to be liked by everyone, but to be respected by the right people. The people who see your worth. The people who honor your boundaries. The people who show up for you the way you show up for them. And once you experience that kind of connection, you'll never settle for less again. Because you've tasted what it feels like to be truly respected. And there's no going back. Let's also talk about the misconceptions, because people will misunderstand you. They'll call you cold when you're just calm. They'll call you distant when you're just selective. They'll call you harsh when you're just protecting your boundaries. And you have to be okay with that. Because the truth is, people who benefited from the old version of you, the version that over-explained, overgave, and overcompromised, will be uncomfortable with the new version. They'll try to guilt you. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being different, as if different is something negative. But different is exactly what you needed to become. You needed to become someone who values herself. Someone who protects her peace. Someone who refuses to shrink to make others comfortable. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, that's their issue, not yours. Your job is not to make everyone happy. Your job is not to be understood by everyone. Your job is to honor yourself, fully, deeply, unapologetically. And when you do that, the right people will understand. They'll respect your growth. They'll celebrate your boundaries. They'll love the version of you that finally chose herself. And the people who don't, they were never meant to stay. So let them go. Release them with grace. And trust that every person who exits your life makes room for someone better to enter. Because that's how life works when you live from a place of self-respect. You stop clinging to people who don't value you. You stop forcing connections that don't flow. You stop settling for relationships that drain you. And you start creating space for the people, the opportunities, the experiences that truly align with who you are. And that space, that intentional, carefully guarded space, is where your life truly begins. So here's my final message to you. You deserve respect. Not because you're perfect. Not because you never make mistakes. But because you're human. Because you have dignity. Because you have worth. And that worth is not something you have to prove. It's not something you have to earn. It's something you simply are. So stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Stop explaining yourself to people who were never confused. Stand tall. Speak less. Walk away more. Protect your peace fiercely. And watch how the world transforms around you. Because respect is not begged for. It's reflected. And the moment you truly respect yourself, the world will have no choice but to do the same.